What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Prophecy Misfits Podcast. This is episode 390. Can't get fooled again. Not to be mixed up with the Who song, Won't Get Fooled Again. This is different. You'll see why in a minute. Yeah. So had a little fun with it. You'll see why in a second. So I'll reveal that. Build the suspense a little bit. Make everybody wait. But yeah, welcome. And this is what we do on Tuesdays and Saturdays. We get together and we watch the crazy things that are happening around the world right now. And these things are insane in the membrane. Another callback to a old 90s song. Anyways. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, and we just do our best to try and navigate the stuff, figure out what on earth is going on to the best of our ability, and to use that in order to warn people and to share the gospel with as many people as we can. Of course, that is what we're called to be, specifically in these last days right now. We're called to be watchmen, and that includes, of course, sounding the alarm, but most importantly, sharing the hope that we have, which is only found in Jesus Christ. And so that's what we do, and we get together. If you're new, welcome in. Glad to have you here. Things are very different around here. You'll soon discover that if you haven't already. And if you're a veteran around here, you know how it goes. So you know what to do. You know where to find the juice boxes and all that stuff. But yeah, can't get fooled again. And unfortunately, it... the media insanity surrounding this hantavirus thing is, oh my gosh. Yeah, we're going to go over some of that stuff. The media is pushing it out there. We got doctors on social media all of a sudden coming out there saying, we got these cases here and we got to do this and this prevents this. And it's like, oh my goodness, are we really going to relive Groundhog Day? Again, and I've said this for a while and I still hold to it. I don't think they're going to be able to do this again unless there's something else to it, and maybe this energy reset is going to be combined with it. It's a possibility, but we'll talk about it. We don't want to jump too far ahead. So we're going to go over all this stuff. It should be fun. Not really, but we got to go over it. We also got the NHS is granting Palantir contractors unlimited access to all patient data, including private data. Yeah. So same thing that's been going on over here in the United States. Well, it's boosting over there across the pond. So we'll take a look at that. Costa Rica top newspaper has visas revoked from executives and journalists in retaliation from the Trump administration. We'll talk about that. Trump also reportedly has discussed making Venezuela the 51st state. I thought that was going to be Canada, but we'll see. We'll talk about that stuff, and they're pushing the story again. Also, if you guys don't know, Trump has taken a trip over to China, to have a discussion with Xi about things, and he took a delegation with him that will go over who that is and why this might be something worth watching. So we'll go over that. We also got the Trump family grift. It seems we talk about this almost every week, almost every show actually. But the family is making a profit off of everybody else's expense. So got to talk about it. This is the corruption and lawlessness that we were told was going to be here. We'll talk about the Trump phone situation and how they stole a whole bunch of money from people. We also got the Trump brothers who are involved with more presidential contracts with companies that they have invested in. So we'll talk about that as well. Reports coming out that the UAE has actually been involved more with the war than what we were initially being led to believe. So we'll talk about that. Cost of Trump's Golden Dome has gone significantly higher, while Trump is also talking about suspending the federal gas tax. We'll talk about that situation and all that stuff. So this should be fun. I guess. Dude, I guess it depends on your definition of fun. Either way, we'll fellowship together. We'll have a few laughs. We'll focus on the Lord, and we'll gain some information that hopefully can help us warn people. That's kind of the goal. So anyways, hopefully everybody's doing well. Hopefully you all had a good start to the week. Hopefully for all the moms, you had a good Mom's Day on Sunday, or I think there's a couple countries that maybe do it at different times, but either way, hope everybody had a good Mom's Day, and appreciate y'all. So hopefully everybody's doing well. Let's just go ahead and get into some housekeeping, shall we?
Housekeeping?
I think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
All right, so usual spiel, if you guys can, like, share, subscribe. Get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. That's why we do this, and that's our whole goal. Again, if we're not focused on, again, what we're called to be focused on, we need to make sure that we're taking that serious. Yeah, we can be lighthearted and have fun and all that type of stuff, but ultimately we need to make sure that we take our job, our responsibility seriously that the Lord has given us, which is getting the warning out and sharing the gospel. So liking, sharing, and subscribing does help do that. It's a very easy way of helping this stuff reach out. I also just posted, somebody asked me to post just the clip of a gospel presentation. I posted that today. So if you are inclined to just go out there and share a short version of the simple gospel, the true gospel of Jesus Christ, I posted that as well. So those are just little ways to help get this warning out, to get the gospel out, and so on and so forth. So if you guys can do me a solid, like, share, subscribe, certainly appreciate it. Also, you can follow along on Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be backup live streaming over on Rumble. So follow over there just in case we get booted off this YouTube platform. Shocked it hasn't happened yet, but hey, you know. And then Telegram post updates, announcements, and other little things that I can't necessarily put in video format. I put up on there as well. So, yeah, if you have those platforms and you want to follow along, they're available. If not, no worries, I understand. Just make sure you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. That's your one-stop shop to stay up to date on everything happening around the world. Or not around the world, but around the Wretched Watchmen side of things. But hey, you know what? We talk about things around the world, so technically that's true. But yeah, you'll find the latest podcasts and live streams. You'll find the announcement page, the free book to download, and all that jazz can be found on there. So that's your one-stop shop to stay up to date. And so make sure you guys bookmark the website so you're always aware of what is happening. What's in the haps, Caps? I have no idea. And last but not least, if you guys like to support this channel and what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and Give Us and Go. Again, this channel is not monetized. I don't make anything from ads, views, or anything like that. We don't sell things. We don't do paywalls. We don't do any of that stuff. Again, the gospel is free. I believe ministry should be free as well, and we're only able to do that because of your guys' generous hearts and generous donations. So thank you for your support. Thank you for all those who donate and help keep this thing going. Again, you guys are the ones that make this run, and I just can't thank you enough. And I pray that the Lord blesses you as much as you guys have blessed me. And hopefully we can keep this going till the last Trump sounds, because I'm ready to go home. I don't know about you guys. But yeah, thank you guys for that. One other thing, I just want to put it out there. Just a big thank you for the toolbox, all those tools that are here every show, that they dedicate time here in order to just help me in all aspects, honestly. So I just want to put a big thank you for all the tools in there. So thank you guys for those, especially after the last show. They had quite a ruckus last time, but just want to put a big thank you for all of you guys as well. You guys are a massive help. I can't do it without them. There's just absolutely no way that I could do it without them. So I appreciate you guys, love you guys, and thank you for that. So please show the tools some love if you guys can as well. Appreciate them. Amanda, amen, got my listening ears on for that Trump. Yeah. Yeah, me too. That makes two of us every day. It's just it's a running gag with me and my dad. Just every once in a while we'll hear like a big bang or something like that, and we always joke to each other, you know, I heard this thing, I thought that was gonna be it, but it wasn't it. we're on edge. We're ready for the Lord to come and get us, that's for sure. So jalapeno love us by giving ice cream. Well, I could mail you some ice cream, but it might not be structurally sound, so to say, when it gets there. Anyways, but yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you for all that. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into what we got going on for tonight. Blue Moon ice cream. Blue suede shoes. I'll get you some blue suede shoes. How about that? And let's go ahead and start off with the first thing being this update on the hantavirus thing. Hopefully this is something that we won't be talking about a week or two from now, but for the time being, it's something that we should keep an eye on, unfortunately, because of what's going on with the media campaign, which I don't know if anybody knows. But as soon as this thing happened with the cruise ship, the moment, I mean, it was like that night, every news organization in every corner of the earth was all of a sudden spewing out articles about this, which tells us that this was obviously a cohesive effort to be put on by the media organizations, if all of them were putting this out there, especially if it's just, I mean, it was one ship with a couple of people and all of a sudden it's going crazy, but yet you don't hear anything about all the crazy viruses happening all over different continents and everything like that are going nuts there. You never hear anything about those, but all of a sudden this one is out there. It's crazy. And then the media circus that comes along with it. But yeah, hantavirus asymptomatic, and this is where we start getting the ridiculousness, which is why I wanted to point this out. Hantavirus asymptomatic case deserves careful attention, says health experts. I saw a comment in the chat. This was either last show or the show before. I don't remember who it was, so I apologize if that was you. Then you can put your name in the chat and get some credit for it. I'm not trying to steal it. I just don't remember who it was. But they said back in the day, fairy tales used to start with once upon a time. In today's day and age, fairy tales begin with experts say, and I think that's absolutely incredible because I'm in 100% agreement with that. Anytime it says experts say, you know you're in for a nice little fable to be told in your ear. But yeah, now they're saying that the hantavirus asymptomatic, which means those who are not displaying any symptoms, all of a sudden are testing positive for it. Interesting. How that goes. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? It should. It says health officials are grappling with new questions after an American who tested positive for the Andes strain of hantavirus showed no symptoms, underscoring gaps in scientists' understanding of how the rare but often deadly, they always have to put that in there, the rare but often deadly. They use this verbiage in order to make sure that they're putting the fear into you. Oh no, it's deadly, which means if it starts spreading, we're going to have to obey what our rulers say, what our leaders say. Virus behaves in some people without signs of illness. On Monday, the World Health Organization, the WHO, the WHO, said there are now 9 confirmed cases of the virus. Interesting. You're not seeing this, but the actual total of it is all the people who are confirmed were actually ones who were on the ship. Not one single person outside the ship has been deemed confirmed with a case. Imagine that. But they're not going to tell that in the mainstream media. Americans evacuated from the ships are being quarantined in Nebraska. Health officials confirmed one American has tested positive for the Andes variant of the virus while asymptomatic, while another is showing no symptoms. Oh, we're doomed. The situation has fueled broader questions about whether asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic cases will still be contagious. Asymptomatic cases could complicate efforts to trace contacts. Here we go again. And contain clusters, particularly when it comes to the virus's incubation period. Are we all scared? Is everybody scared? Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to condition you. They're trying to scare you. They're trying to possibly, if this is not just a psyop in itself, possibly set up for something else, which again, I don't think it would function unless they attach it to something, but we know that there is currently an energy reset happening right in front of our very eyes, so maybe they attach it to that. I don't know. I'm not going to try and speculate or guess. I'm just giving you possible avenues of thinking in regards to this. But either way, we're now getting the situation where even those who don't show the symptoms are now testing positive for this hantavirus. And so again, that's going right along with what happened during the COOF situation, which anybody knows that COOF situation, the amount of people, the amount of yearly flu cases dropped the exact same amount of people who tested positive for COOF. Interesting how that works, right? That leads us over to this. The WHO, the WHO chief says, work not over. Yeah, he came out and said, more hantavirus cases are expected. You're expecting this rare but deadly disease that just happens to be the one strain out of nowhere that's able to be passed from human to human contact, and you can show no signs of symptoms but still test positive. You're expecting that to increase. Wow. Wonder why that is. The WHO chief says work not over after evacuation of hantavirus-stricken cruise ship. Says the World Health Organization Chief Tedros said Tuesday that our work is not over to contain hantavirus after evacuations from a cruise ship hit by a deadly outbreak. Always got to put that in there, of the illness. There's no signs that we are seeing the start, and this is identical. If anybody remembers the very beginnings of the whole COOF situation, it's almost they're saying the exact same thing. There is no sign that we are seeing the start of a larger outbreak. Tedros told a joint news conference in Madrid with Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. Interesting. It's interesting. I'm not saying there's a connection there, but it's interesting that he happens to be making this statement in Spain. What is the one country that has become a thorn in the side of Europe and the United States and is connected to China? Interesting. I'm not saying there's a connection there, but I do find it interesting that this is the location he chose to make these announcements. But of course, the situation could change. So not expected, but it could change. And we expect cases to rise. And given the long incubation period of the virus, it's possible we might see more cases in the coming weeks. Most countries have followed the WHO's guidelines, which include a 42-day quarantine and constant monitoring of high-risk contacts. And we went over the last show, we went over the fact that this is right around the same time that the pandemic accord has been put on hold because of this very thing about pathogen sharing between the countries and stuff like that. So that's there and everything like that. So pretty interesting what's going on with that. But again, I'm just seeing the same Groundhog Day rollover of what happened during the COOF situation. This is going to be interesting situation to monitor because they might be testing something. This might be something where they're edging up to that, but they're just trying to see how people react so they can kind of determine things on that. Maybe they'll attach it to the energy reset. Maybe it'll just drift away here in a couple weeks. All of these things are possible. I don't necessarily know the answer for you, but we just kind of keep an eye on this whole situation. But that brings us to can't get fooled again, because when I saw this, I had a quote pop into my head. It's a very famous quote, if you remember. But it's so incredibly profound, intellectually profound, that it just fits this situation perfectly. And it comes from George W. Bush. It says, there's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. That's right. Wise words that we should all live by. From W. Now, of course, he's just sitting there telling everybody to go out and go shopping. We got him. We took care of the terrorists. We took care of Bin Laden. We took him out. And I know there's an old saying in Tennessee. I know it's in Texas. Probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, can't get fooled again. So, yeah, we just need to make sure that we keep that in mind. Don't get fooled again when it comes to this situation. And then coming out today to even boost the insanity. That's a real quote, by the way. You can go and find that video of him saying it. Yeah, it's as ridiculous to hear as it is to read. This came out today to add to the escalated ridiculousness of this situation. First suspected Generation 3. It's already mutating, guys. It's already mutating. So this rare but deadly disease that mainly comes from rodents but has one strain that's human-to-human contact just happens to be the one that is now mutating. First suspected Generation 3 hantavirus case as Italian who sat alongside woman on Dutch KLM flight before she died developed symptoms amid fear that virus has mutated. It almost seems like we're speed running the coof. So if it's 2 weeks to flatten the curve, does that mean it's only going to be 3 days to flatten the curve? So it's only going to be about what, two and a half years of actual lockdowns as opposed to what? Hard to keep track. This is the first suspected Generation 3 hantavirus case has emerged, potentially signifying the first stage of a much wider outbreak of a deadly rat-borne disease. Samples from the quarantined Italian man have been sent to an infectious disease hospital for testing after he boarded a Dutch KLM flight alongside a woman who later died from the hantavirus. So far, no cases have been confirmed in people who were not on board the AMV Hondius. Yeah, see, confirmed in people who were not on it. Everybody so far has been on that thing. So there's no evidence that the virus has spread beyond the confines of the ship. However, the 25-year-old from the southern region of Calabria test positive. It will prove that the disease is a lot more contagious and far less contained than previously thought. You know, I'm sorry, I just can't take this serious. I just really can't take this serious. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. Says it comes as French Health Minister Stephanie Rist admitted that there are things that we don't know about the killer virus, including whether it has mutated. Do you see what I mean? Like how this stuff is written, how it's presented is just insane. Like there's already all the videos coming out of people seeing people in full hazmat gear getting wheeled into the hospital and stuff like that. A bus filled with quote unquote infected people who are wearing hazmat gear, and right outside is politicians in their suits with cameras making sure that they're getting filmed right in front of the bus with all that. I mean, it's just so ridiculously absurd how this goes. Again, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, can't get fooled again. That's what I mean. Like, another option for all this could be to create instability, like economic instability, which again, one of the main things that comes from an energy reset is a financial reset. So maybe this is going to play a part of it. I don't know. I'm just, again, trying to present you guys with as much information, different avenues of thinking as possible as we watch this thing develop. And then the best way to go about it is to see which way it starts trending, and then you can kind of start seeing what the next steps they might take would be from there. That's usually how I go about these things when I'm researching like the war situation and the trade situation in the Middle East and everything like that. It's just, I come up with several different things and I just wait to see what happens, and I start to see the trend. I can compare and contrast and see where it's going, and then I'm able to kind of navigate from there. And so I think that's the best way that we can do when it comes to this. But I still don't think that they could just pull off another coup situation. I just don't see it. Yeah, people in this world are insanely stupid, and I don't mean that to be, you know, harsh or think I'm better than anybody or anything like that. Everybody knows that they've been working on dumbing down society for a long time, and it's working flawlessly, I might add. And so even with that many people, I just don't see it, because a lot of people started to see the fakeness of the last one towards the end there, and I don't know if they would go along with it again, but maybe they would. Maybe they would. I don't know. What I do know is if we do start seeing this, we need to make sure that we're properly prepared when we meet the people going along with the PSYOP in the real world. And so I just want to make sure that we follow the guide of what we do. So how to interact with somebody who falls for it again. Just to make sure that we're on the same page when it comes to this. So yeah, we just need to make sure we have the right guide for how we go up. I'm sorry. I still, to this day, still see every once in a while people walking around a store with a mask. And about a week ago, kid you not, about a week ago, saw somebody driving in their car alone wearing a mask. Yeah. Proton Goat. That's right. Point and laugh in love. Correct. Make sure everything that we do in love. So we got to make sure that even when we point and laugh, it's in love. That's right. You get the right idea. I'm sorry, guys. I can't help myself. There's going to be somebody watching that goes, that's just not very nice. That's not Christian of you. Come on. Laugh a little bit. Ay. Anyways. Yeah, I know. Are they testing the dead people? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, some of your guys' comments. Yeah. Anyways, all right. So that's all I got when it comes to this antivirus stuff. Like I said, there is a flood out there in the media and all these doctors on social media that's just identical to what we saw during the COOF thing. So we'll see what happens. Again, there's many different ways that it can go. I'm not going to sit here and try and predict one because I'd literally just be throwing baloney at a wall to see what sticks. And depending on what brand of baloney, they all stick. But anyways, that's beside the point. We're not even going to go there. That's a thought that you have in the shower in the morning going, anyway. All right, let's stick in with medical stuff, but jumping across the pond and getting into technology. Let's take a look at this. It says NHS to grant Palantir contractors unlimited access to patient data. Staff from consultancy firms drafted into work on federated data platform project set to benefit. So this is over there in ye old England. NHS England has granted external staff from companies including Palantir unlimited access to identifiable patient data while working on part of its flagship data platform. The change, first outlined in an internal briefing note seen by the Financial Times, relates to the National Data Integration Tenet, described as a safe haven for data before it is pseudonymized and transferred to other systems. This is the exact same thing that Doge was doing in the U.S. government, by the way, where they were prepping the systems and streamlining data all to a centralized Palantir data farm. So it's the exact same thing happening with NHS health patient data. The NDIT, which is the National Data Integration Tenet, is an area within the federated data platform, a tool that connects disparate NHS data into a single system, which Palantir won a £330 million contract in 2023 to build. The change marks a significant departure from the current practice, which requires any individual working with the NDIT to apply for clear data access for specific data sets. While all-around access was originally intended only for NHS England employees with security clearance, the briefing noted that external workers had requested the same permissions, as it is too inconvenient to apply for all of the necessary individual CDAs. It also added that this is not only about Palantir, hence why we have referred to non-NHSE staff, but there's currently considerable public interest and concern about how much access to patient data Palantir staff had. So basically, the NHS system has a thing in there for you have to have strict security clearance for this particular data, and it's something that they check on a regular basis to make sure that you're still clear and that you have access to it, and it's only down to a limited number of people. What this is doing, since they allowed Palantir in there, is the staff that does that still needs to go through that process. However, Palantir staff, and contractors connected to Palantir all can just freely see this data and work with it and analyze it without having to go through the same protocol that these other staff people are having to do, which was, again, time sensitive, background restrictive, and a limited amount. And that's what's going on. So free access. Again, this is the exact same thing that just happened with the United States governmental system. The note recommends that a cap be placed on the number of external admins with access to the NDIT, which should also be time limited and regularly reviewed. Officials confirmed that the recommendation in the briefing note had been accepted. Oh, well, that sounds great. So it sounds like they're actually going to go with that idea. However, in recent weeks, but it would only apply to a small number of non-NHS staff. So it just keeps on going. Now, I don't know this. Maybe we have somebody over there in England and in that area over there that knows this answer. Do you guys have something like HIPAA there? I'm just curious. Even though HIPAA at this point doesn't restrict any of this stuff, because the United States government, the Trump administration, has even gone into the health things and said, we want all this data. And they said HIPAA, and Trump said, the Trump administration said, we don't care, and took it anyways. But I'm just curious, over there in England, do you guys have something like HIPAA where this information is not supposed to be publicly accessed by these people? I really actually don't know the answer to that. So, does that mean staph infection like our government? Oh, man. Yeah, I guess you could put it that way. Okay, I guess we don't have anybody over there right now. All right, if you're watching later, leave it in the comments. I'm curious. Yeah. Again, this is a situation, the Palantir situation, the big daddy of all this continues to infect and spread globally. Again, they've already snatched 30-something departments here in the United States. They have access to everybody's information, whether it's financial, work, private and home stuff, family, health, everything. Palantir has access to everybody's information right now. Then you stack that onto the fact that it's all the government systems and files are running through the Palantir system. The entire military now is running through the Palantir system, so much so that they're not only running the files and running simulations and risk assessment and deployment regimes and everything like that, but they're also running entire weapon systems on top of it. And Palantir's involved with all this. And again, Palantir's involved with the NATO situation, involved with Europe. They're involved with the health situation over there now, which is starting to expand. There was something a month or two back where there was another NHS group. I don't think it was England. It was somebody else over there. But they were protesting Palantir, trying to get them kicked out of the hospital because they were already involved. And then we know Palantir is also connected to a lot of the Gulf states over there in the Middle East. They're connected to Israel. They're connected to Australia. And it's just spreading like wildfire. I know Palantir, or at least people involved with Palantir, have had contact with some Asian countries. I don't necessarily know. I do know Palantir is connected to South Korea. That much I do know. But I know that they've talked to like the Philippines, and I think they've even talked to people in China. I know they've talked to Japan. Alex Karp was over in Japan a couple weeks ago, actually. And so they're starting to spread over there too, which is my word. So this is interesting to see. You guys want to talk about a virus. You want to talk about a cancer on this earth when it comes to this. Palantir seems to be fulfilling that rather well when it comes to a technovirus, to say the least. And they're still spreading. They just cannot be stopped. And again, Alex Karp is somebody who likes to bend the rules to the point of disruption and killing all those who oppose the Palantir system, and it appears that seems to be going through rather smoothly at this point, which makes you wonder, this is always the question that I bounce around in my head. Is Palantir going to be the system that the beast uses? Or is Palantir going to be the system that the beast squashes to prove that he's here to save us from, or not us, those who are left behind, save them from the big baddies as he brings in a new system? That's the question I keep bouncing around in my head, because that's one that nobody knows the answer to. It is an interesting discussion, an interesting thought process, because I can see both avenues. I could see him coming in and taking over Palantir, but I can also see him coming in and removing that, saying, look at what they did to you, as he installs his own system that might have been in production behind the scenes. Something to think about. Maybe he just gets rid of the Palantir name and plugs into the system that's already built. That's another option. So pretty interesting discussion. It's not one that we're necessarily going to speculate here, but it's definitely a topic that it's fun to discuss, with your friends and stuff like that. None of us know. It's just one of those things that's up in the air at the moment, but it's still pretty fascinating in regards to it. Moving on. Let's jump over to Costa Rica. Costa Rica's top newspaper says U.S. revoked visas of its executives, prompting press freedom concerns. It says one of Costa Rica's leading media outlets said that the United States has revoked the tourist visas of several executives on its board, as well as some journalists as well. They don't put that in the top thing, but some journalists for the newspaper also got cut too. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's going on. It says the United States has revoked the visas of several board executives at La Nación, one of Costa Rica's leading media outlets, triggering fresh accusations that the U.S., in conjunction with the allied Costa Rican government, is stripping visas to punish critics and political opponents. Now, this is one of those things that, again, if you're not up to date on what's been going on with the latest executive orders and policy changes established by the Trump administration, you might look at this and go, oh, we got ourselves another political theater warfare situation between both sides. One side is reporting on the other one doesn't like it, so they're cutting them off, so on and so forth. However, we know, because we've been looking at this stuff for how many years now, that all the executive orders and the policy changes and everything that's been going through the Trump administration has everything to do with making and designating those who don't follow the exact political stylings of the Trump administration as domestic terrorists. And so when it comes to people outside of that, the domestic side of things, and they're foreign, this stuff is just going to get cut off immediately, because you are now a threat, simply because you don't align with the political stylings of the Trump administration. And so this perfectly fits in line, again, with the latest updates on this stuff that we've been watching. Things like the NSPM7 and everything like that. In a statement that ran as the newspaper's front page on Sunday, the board of directors said that the affected members first learned that they had been stripped of their visas to enter the U.S. from reports in pro-government media. So state media reported this. La Nación has long been a thorn in the side of outgoing Costa Rican President Rodrigo Chavez, a close ally of U.S. President Donald Trump, who has agreed to accept up to 100 third-country deportees a month as part of the Trump administration's effort to ramp up deportations. The newspaper with Chavez, I have to say it like that, I just can't, has berated since it... Sorry. The newspaper with Chavez has berated since it published allegations of sexual harassment during his 2022 presidential campaign, which we understand Trump has absolutely no problem with anything involving sexual harassment, human trafficking, child molestation, or anything like that. He pardons those people all the time. Said that the U.S. gave no reason for the visa revocations. We fully recognize that the United States, like any sovereign state, has the power to determine the terms of entry into its territory, La Nación said. However, it is unprecedented in Costa Rica's recent history for visas to be revoked from members of the board of a general interest and independent newspaper. The move appeared to mark the latest instance of the Trump administration deploying immigration restrictions to punish its political foes, and prompted sharp criticism from political opposition and press freedom organizations in Costa Rica, which demanded that the Costa Rican and U.S. authorities provide an explanation for what happened. Mauricio Herrera, journalist and former Costa Rican communications minister from 2015 to 2018, went a step further, saying there's no doubt that the cancellation of the visa for its board of directors is in response to a request from the Costa Rican government, which of course has allied with the Trump administration. So that all makes sense. Now, we take that and we add it on to information that we already know that's happening here in the United States. The Trump administration has illegally gone after journalists of newspaper publications, demanding that they get the information regarding their sources and private files issued to the journalist through their sources, which actually we have laws that says they can't do that. The government cannot go to a journalist who is connected to a news organization and demand sources to be identified. It's illegal, but they have done it. They've also seized personal files from journalists that came from the sources. That's also illegal, and they did it anyways. We also know that they've threatened to sue other independent journalists. There we go. They've also threatened to sue independent journalists for the things that they've uncovered and have put out publicly. Trump said that he would do that personally as opposed to doing it through the government, which the government can't do it, but he can do it personally. We also know that Trump has gone after other ones like the New York Times and Fox News and all these other ones for putting out information regarding his personal life and everything like that as well. So it's clear that Trump has a vendetta and a personal target on anybody who goes after him or his political standings. And so when you look at what's going on with Costa Rica, the fact that their visas were revoked, which they don't explicitly say was for the reason why, but it's pretty obvious that that's the reason why. It goes to show that they're trying to shut down anything that when it comes to information that we can actually use and that can help us. They want to try and shut it down, which of course we know that Trump's not a fan of the First Amendment anyways, because he has publicly come out and said that he is in the process of removing the First Administration. I've shown that video multiple times on this channel. So it's pretty interesting. And this is also something we have to remember. God has told us that he does not want us to be stupid. He wants us to be able to gain knowledge of what's going on. And for us to be able to do our jobs properly as watchmen and to get the warning out there, we must be able to access this knowledge. But there has been a serious push to restrict information, to restrict knowledge, trying to take down any possible way that we can go and research these things. Things like the Internet Archive and the Wayback Machine have been hit multiple times. They're still under lawsuits and everything like that because they don't want us to have access to this information. And of course, we can all go back to the manual of this of 1984. This is the best way in order to control the people is to control the information that they have. And how do you do that is you remove the ability to gain knowledge. So this Costa Rica thing is actually much deeper than you might give it credit for, because when you first look at it, okay, so they revoked the visas of some Costa Rican newspaper people, but this goes much, much deeper. We've covered a lot of that stuff, but I think it is worth remembering these things, and it goes directly against what God has told us to do. Don't be stupid. Go out there and obtain knowledge. Well, Satan, through the act of government, is doing the exact thing to try and prevent that. Make everybody stupid and eliminate their access to actual information. Crazy times we're living in, isn't it? Crazy times. With that, let's jump over to Venezuela. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Trump floats Venezuela as 51st state. Delcy Rodriguez fires back. Of course she does. That's the public relations side of things, because as we know, Delcy Rodriguez has already made a deal with the Trump administration. If she doesn't play ball, she'll get kicked out too. So this is nothing but PR, theatrical stunt work. But the fact that Trump has floated this idea is at least worth keeping an eye on. He says, I'm very serious about this. I'm serious about beginning a process to make Venezuela the 51st state, the president reportedly said. Says Venezuelan acting President Delcy Rodriguez rejected President Donald Trump's suggestion that he is seriously considering making Venezuela the 51st state of the United States. Again, she's speaking in a way that like she actually has any say on this, and she doesn't. Rodriguez, speaking from The Hague, where she traveled for proceedings before the International Court of Justice over Venezuela's territorial dispute with Guyana, said Venezuela would defend its independence and territory after Trump's comments. The Associated Press reported that Rodriguez rejected the idea of the U.S. statehood and framed Venezuela as a sovereign nation, not a territory available for annexation. Now, it's very, 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 very interesting, and I might add a couple more varies onto that, that she says this when she's literally speaking at the International Court of Justice about territorial dispute in Guyana. Now, we went over this a long time ago when we were going over the whole Venezuela situation. Guyana is interesting because Guyana says that they control the territory there. Venezuela says it's actually their territory. This has been a dispute going on for like 50 years. And the reason being is because there is massive oil in that region. And there's been a dispute going on for a long time. Guyana says it's theirs. Venezuela says it's theirs. And these oil companies have built major rigs over there. And so a ton of oil is found off the coast of Guyana, and that's where a major dispute has been going on. And so it's interesting that all of a sudden, Trump brings up 51st state for Venezuela at the very same time that their puppet, Delcy Rodriguez, is speaking about the territorial dispute, which has everything to do with oil at the same time. The timing is fascinating because it has everything to do with, again, energy. Trump's remark made in a phone call with Fox News, according to reports, came as he said that Venezuela had major oil wealth and claimed the country loves Trump. Nobody loves you, dude. Not even your own kids. They just look at you because they're making money off of you. When I talked to the president this morning, he kind of surprised me because he said, John, I just want to tell you, I'm very serious about this. I'm serious about beginning a process to make Venezuela the 51st state, reported Fox News journalist John Roberts. Says the legal reality is much colder than the headline. Under Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution, new states must be admitted by Congress. Well, Congress isn't doing anything, and the Trump administration continues to do illegal and unconstitutional things without congressional approval, so who cares? That means Trump cannot unilaterally make Venezuela a state. Watch it happen. Statehood would require congressional action, and in case of a sovereign country such as Venezuela, consent from its people and government would be a central legal and diplomatic question. But again, the people involved in the government of Venezuela are all controlled. Anyways, so if they get the call that says you must accept this, they will accept it. The timing also matters. Rodriguez was in the Netherlands for the ICJ case over the Essequibo, the oil-rich region controlled by Guyana but claimed by Venezuela. There we go. The backdrop makes Trump's statehood remark even more sensitive. Venezuela is already arguing before the world that its territorial claims deserve respect. A U.S. president publicly suggesting Venezuela itself could be absorbed in the United States gives Caracas a ready-made argument about sovereignty, outside pressure, and foreign interference. Very interesting. So this is much more than just simply putting out another thing like making it the 51st state, because as we remember, Canada was supposed to be the 51st state. And then we heard Cuba was going to be the 51st state. Then we heard Greenland was going to be the 51st state. Now we're hearing Venezuela is going to be the 51st state. But the difference is Venezuela is already has puppets in control of their government. And could easily transfer that over. And it's in the middle of a dispute that has everything to do with, you guessed it, oil. Fascinating. Again, these are these little things that don't necessarily get bullhorned out there in the media, because what everybody's saying is Venezuela 51st state. Trump said it, reportedly. But when you start pairing it with the fact of a giant oil dispute at the same time, kind of an interesting conversation. Excuse me. So, what's going on? I'll just leave that to you guys. I have no idea what's going on. To add a little bit more onto this, Trump posted this on his Truth Social, and the White House put it on Twitter. That was today. Trump, 51st state, and that's Venezuela on the map, and the White House put it out there as well. So what was apparently just a report It actually seems to have some validity to all of this as well. So, all right. How we doing? Everybody good? Hopefully everybody's hanging in there, doing all right. All right. Let's take a look at what's going on with the China trip. So, as you guys may have heard, the Trump administration and the group of delegates have gone over to have a meeting with Xi. We've known about this meeting for a while. We've been talking about it in passing as we talk about the discussions regarding all the different trade scenarios, the oil situation, and everything, because usually put in there that's a little stipulation thing put in a lot of that, a lot of those articles that brought up the fact that Trump was meeting with Xi here. And he has made his way over there. And there's a report apparently coming out that has something to do with Trump and Xi making a $1 trillion deal to allow about $1 trillion worth of Chinese manufacturing to be constructed in the United States. Now, if you follow the narrative, if you hear that, you would probably put that off as something absolutely ridiculous that would never happen. But for us, we don't really follow the narrative, and we understand that these two supposed enemies are actually working together. And we look at this and go, yeah, I could see it happening. Especially when you look at the whole tariff situation, because where Trump gave relief in Chinese tariffs had to do with the exact manufacturing that China would put in the United States, which kind of adds some interest to it. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Trump on the verge of heir of world historic proportions against AIDS advice report. Says, always one looking to make a splash deal, Donald Trump is giving serious consideration to allowing China to make a massive investment in the United States. In a column in the New York Times, conservative economist Oren Cass reported the president may be on the verge of tying the United States to China irrevocably. Trump and Xi Jinping are reportedly considering a deal to allow China to invest $1 trillion in the United States, largely to build factories on American soil. Now, the way that it seems to be going is it would be automobiles. And so if China was to build which that's where his tariffs actually had a relief for China, was automobile stuff, which kind of adds a little weight to it. And if that was to happen, you're looking at the entire North American auto industry going kaput and Chinese automobiles coming into play. And if you guys remember, the United States is going to start putting kill switches in cars, and they're going to put face tracking in cars. I don't know if people know about that, but they're putting face tracking in there. So it's always going to be monitoring your face to see if you're tired or you're intoxicated, and it can just shut down your car at any time and call the authorities. All this stuff has already been going through. And so if China was the one to bring over their automobiles, North American automakers go down, Chinese automakers come in that already has all that technology. Bada bing, bada boom. Taken care of. Pretty interesting. Says the reported negotiations come as Trump prepares for a trip to China and seeks to cement his legacy as a deal maker. Ah, yes. Even if that deal undermines the very trade agenda he championed, which is all a ruse. $1 trillion infusion of Chinese capital would exceed the total direct investment in the United States made by any other country since the Declaration of Independence. He wrote before adding that even a fraction of the amount would devastate what remains of American economic defenses, weakening national security and supply chain resilience while handing the Chinese Communist Party a powerful tool to subvert U.S. markets. And that's where the ding, ding, ding comes into play. Because if you look at what's going on, or what happened back in 2008 was the trigger point for the financial reset, and we got confirmation from multiple people, including a Rothschild, George Soros, Brzezinski. I mean, we've got confirmation from all these globalists that all confirm the same thing. And George Soros flatly told us what was going on, and that had everything to do with a controlled demolition of the US dollar, and it's going to be China and their economy that's going to be the engine for it. So if this deal does go through, it would devastate the American economic defenses, weaken national security and supply chain resilience, and hand China the ability to subvert U.S. markets, devastating the U.S. dollar, and China would be the engine for doing it. Pretty interesting when you go back and look at history in the past. Now, that does not necessarily mean that this is going to happen. However, we need to keep a pinpoint precise eye on this situation going on in China and the possibility of this deal being made, even if it's not necessarily this $1 trillion deal that's supposedly coming out. If it's something similar, it's definitely something we need to keep an eye on for sure. And when you start hitching the United States to China like that, that's going to allow them to really put the brakes on the US dollar and wreck this economy over here in the United States. All about the same time that an energy reset is happening, which also connects to a financial reset as well. It's very fascinating. Now, when we look at the delegates who are heading over to China, so you got your usual suspects on this. You got people, Trump's going. You got Marco Rubio, he's going. You got Stephen Miller's going. Pete Hegseth's going. A couple other U.S. aides as well. And, of course, you got... what's his face? I believe it's Eric Trump who's going, and Laura Trump who's going, which, why are you doing that? You'll notice that all the state people going, state representatives, not one of them is foreign relations, Chinese relations, or even can speak Mandarin. Anybody surprised by that stupid choice? I'm not. But there's also a second group of delegates going from the private sector. Let's take a look, shall we? Trump's China delegation from the private sector. Jane Fraser from Citibank. Tim Cook from Apple. Elon Musk from Tesla. I thought they were having a little tiff between the two of them. I guess they kissed and made up. Elon Musk from Tesla. Brian Sykes from Cargill, which is food. Larry Fink of BlackRock, he's heading over there. Kelly Ortberg from Boeing, heading over there. Ryan McKierney from Visa. Chuck Robbins from Cisco Technology. Jacob Thaysen from Illumina. Jim Anderson from Coherent. Sanjay Mehrotra from Micron, more technology. Cristiano Amon from Qualcomm. Again, more technology. Michael Miebach from MasterCard. Dinah Powell McCormick from Meta. David Solomon from Goldman Sachs. H. Lawrence Culp from GE Aerospace. Steven Schwartzman from Blackstone. There is more private sector people from banking, technology, and defense heading over with the Trump delegation to make deals with China than state representatives. Again, not one foreign or Chinese relation representative, and nobody can speak Mandarin. This is corporatism. And if anybody knows corporatism, they understand that that's one of the main pillars of fascism. So it sure seems like Trump and his delegation here are heading over to China, who is supposed to be a sworn enemy, where we've got tariffs and security complaints and hackings and all the stuff that we hear all the time from the mainstream media and the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security and all these things like that. But Trump and his private sector are heading over to make as many deals as possible with the supposed enemy that we continue to get told is the enemy. Again, I've said this and I still stand by it. It used to be the private sector needed the government to function. The roles have been reversed. The government needs the private sector. It's the private sector that makes the decisions. They got the big boy pants on. They wear the pull-ups. They don't wear the regular diapers like Trump wears now. Depends. But they wear the pull-ups. They're the big boys. The big kid now. Pretty interesting what's happening here. Sticking with technology and talking about Proton Girl GE Aerospace. Never heard of that? Ooh. Do a little search on GE Aerospace. That's a fun one. Let's talk about technology and grift, shall we? 590,000 Americans made $100 deposits for Trump's $499 gold phone. Nearly a year later, not one has shipped. Oh, and it gets worse. It gets worse. Let's take a look. More than 500,000 people paid $100 each for a gold smartphone featuring an American flag that Trump Mobile promised would be made in the USA. The problem is, 1 year later, they don't seem to have been made at all. President Trump's sons, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, announced that the Trump Mobile flagship T1 phone, retailing at $499 on June 16, 2025, to coincide with the 10th anniversary of Donald Trump's 2016 campaign launch, as an alternative to Apple and Samsung. Since then, an estimated 590,000 buyers paid a collective $59 million in deposits to secure one of the phones. Yes, the Trump administration stole $59 million from some extremely dumb Americans. I'm just going to say it. There are 590,000 people that decided to put $100 down for a Trump phone. They've not gotten the phone, they've not gotten a refund, and they deserve it. If you're that stupid, you deserve to have your $100 taken. The device would work with Trump Mobile's service plan for $47.45 per month. Funny. Trump Mobile's 47 plan, which operates on the T-Mobile network, claims to be better than the rest. How can it be better than the rest when you're using the same T-Mobile towers as all the other ones? Not a single confirmed customer has received the phone, which was initially promised for late summer 2025, but later pushed back to November, then December, then mid-March this year. By April, Trump Mobile redesigned the website, removing the release date altogether. NBC News, which placed a $100 deposit in August 2025 to track the story, reportedly called Trump Mobile's support line 5 times between September and November 2025 because the company provided no proactive updates after the order. In October, a representative told the outlet that the phone would ship on November 13th. When it didn't arrive, the outlet called again and was told it would ship on December. Another representative assured the outlet that the T1 would ship sometime in Q1 2026, blaming the delay on the federal government shutdown, which shouldn't have impacted the private sector company anyways. It gets worse. Where's my thing?
But I'm not done yet. Call right now and I'll triple the offer.
Journalist Joseph Cox, investigating the phone saga for 404 Media, also placed a deposit, or at least tried to. But Trump Mobile reportedly charged Cox Card the wrong amount and never collected his shipping address. The company did, however, send a confirmation email that promised delivery notifications, which didn't come either. But there's more. Do I need to play Billy Mays again? There's more. They updated the terms and conditions. Oh, okay. Let's see what they updated. I'm sure it's something good, right? To help the Americans that Trump continues to say that he loves, and he's putting them first, right? Trump Mobile quietly updated its pre-order deposit terms and conditions on April 6th of 2026. At the time of writing, the terms and conditions read, a pre-order deposit provides only a conditional opportunity if Trump Mobile later elects, in its sole discretion, to offer the device for sale. A deposit, continuing with the updated terms and conditions, a deposit is not a purchase, does not constitute acceptance of an order, does not create a contract for sale, does not transfer ownership or title interest, does not allocate or reserve specific inventory, and does not guarantee that a device will be produced or made available for purchase. People literally put $100 down to pre-order something that they were told by their great golden savior Trump was coming. And after a year of nothing, they updated the terms and conditions and said, we're not responsible for actually producing anything for you. Essentially, stealing $59 million from American citizens. Stealing $100 from 590,000 people, which again, they deserve it, but that doesn't make it any less right. The terms also add that a binding sales contract is formed not only if the customers complete checkout, submit full payment, and Trump accepts and successfully processes that payment, but also if Trump Mobile makes the device available for sale. If Trump Mobile makes the device available for sale, adding that there's no guarantee of release, delivery, or timing. Estimated ship dates, launch timelines, or anticipated production schedule are non-binding estimates only, the terms read. Trump Mobile does not guarantee that the device will be commercially released. Regulatory approvals, including FCC authorization, will be obtained. Carrier certification will be secured. Production will commence or continue, or delivery will occur within any specific time frame. Meanwhile, deposits are non-transferable and carry no independent cash value, which means you can't get a refund. And this was updated a year after the announcement. This is how he does business. Again, keep in mind, Trump has bankrupted 6 of his companies, bailed out twice by the Rothschild family and twice by Saudi Arabian princes. And this is the guy that they chose perfect to bankrupt this country, even though we were told by MAGA and Christians alike that he was going to fix the economy. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that people think this. It's crazy that 590,000 Americans actually sent them $100 for a Trump phone. You know how we're talking about the dumbing down of people? I was going to play this later, but I'm only play it now because I think it needs to be played now. This was today. Reporter asking Trump about Americans' financial situation regarding the Iran war deal. I want you to hear how Trump responds. Let's take a listen, shall we?
When you're negotiating with Iran, Mr. President, to what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all. That's the only thing that motivates.
In case you couldn't hear, I hate it when they ask questions out by the plane and the helicopter and stuff. Makes it so hard to hear. The reporter said, to what extent are Americans' financial situation motivating you to make a deal with Iran? Trump responded, not even a little bit. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. For the Christians who still support this guy and continue to push him up and make excuses and literally bend, alter, and destroy reality in order to push this guy. He does not care about you. You are a cockroach for him. You are a nagging mosquito in his way of pursuing the globalist agenda. How many times does he have to tell you that he doesn't care about this country, care about you, care about Americans, care about the Constitution, care about legality, Congress? How many times does he have to tell you that he doesn't care? You're like an overly attached girlfriend to this guy that just won't go away. He bluntly told you, I don't think about the Americans' financial situation. I don't care. Not even a little bit. That statue should be enough that we just talked about on Saturday. I don't think about Americans' financial situation as he places a 22-foot golden statue of himself at the Doral Resort. I say this not to just, again, push the political thing and, anti-Trump this and Trump that. I'm trying to use this as the most prominent example as I can to get you to let go of this earth. Let go of the politics. Let go of trying to save this. Why do you want to save this world? Why do you want to save this country? Why are you willing to make excuse after excuse, bend over backwards so many times you've become a rolled up fruit roll-up to defend this guy who has clearly told you that he's willing to push you down, urinate on you and call it rain? I talk about this because I want people to realize they continue to say we don't worship Trump, but yet they do everything that they can to prop him up as a king. They say one thing, but operate in another. And maybe you're one of those people here right now, lurking in the background. I don't say this to be a meanie pants. I don't say this to get on your back. I don't say this to, to push you down and prop myself up. I'm not doing that. I'm just trying to get you to stop and think for a moment. You're caught on the fence of gaining the world but losing your soul. You need to get off the fence. You truly need to choose one side or the other, because having a foot in one and a boot in another doesn't work. especially now. It's clear for anybody who's willing to see what's going on. It is clear that there is a massive PR struggle in this world going on between Trump and Jesus Christ. Now, we know who wins. It's not a struggle for him. We know that. But when it comes to operating as humans in a humanity world, there's clearly a struggle happening that we have to battle with as we go out and try to share the gospel with people, try to make disciples, try to warn people of what's going on. The problem is there's a giant golden Trump statue getting in our way in every step that we take. And we're not getting fed that. So it's hard enough to go out there and try and do this when the world continues to shove that in our way. But it's even worse when we try and go out there and literal Christians who we're all supposed to be working towards the same goal are the ones pushing that statue in front of our way all the time as we're trying to get out there and do this. I don't know why people can't see that. This isn't anything to do with just throwing more politics out there. I get that all the time. I got Trump transmission syndrome. It has nothing to do with that. This has to do with really the why this is so important. And when we have pastors and we have prophecy teachers and we have Christians and we have all these people that are going out there that continue to make excuses for a guy who is literally telling you the opposite of the excuses that you're making for him, you are hurting our very ability to go out there and be honest with people. To be honest about the world, to be honest about the situation, to be honest about last days, about end times prophecy, about warning people of what's going on. Because when you go out there, the truth of the matter continues to get obscured by the love of a man that hates you. Again, there's times there's not to get specific, but to try and give you an idea, there are a couple of pastors that I think are incredible when it comes to preaching the gospel, when it comes to teaching scripture with depth and intellect. But they continue to veer out of their lane to talk politics, and it's clear that they have Trump in the way of them understanding what's going on in the world. It would be so much better if they would just stick on the road of just teaching the word and not getting into politics. Because if you can't see the reality of the situation, and you have some idol, and that's what it is, they won't ever say it is, but it's clear it is, getting in the way of you understanding that stuff, then just stay in your lane. It's the same thing when it comes to stuff, when it comes to like Israel and stuff like that. It's clear that there is serious conspiracy that Israel is not only involved with, but in some cases, a centerpiece to. When it comes to the global order, when it comes to pushing this stuff forward, that many pastors absolutely refuse to see, will outright reject, and make excuses for in order to defend what they have made an idol. And it gets in the way of being able to do our job as watchmen properly. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. Direct quote from Trump. But yet Christians will continue to say he cares about America. He puts Americans first. And he's going to fix the financial situation. Just trust the plan. if you have, even if it's something else, again, this can be applied in a much broader way because it's scriptural. If you place something above Christ, you have placed an idol in front of him. You are serving two masters. And you can't do that. And a lot of people say, I don't look at Trump as an idol. I don't place him above Christ. If you continue to lie, run cover, and excuse, which includes denying reality in order to defend a person or a country, you have made that an idol. Whether you want to call it one or not, you have. In today's world, I would say most have put their phone as an idol. Most have put money as an idol. Most have put vacations as an idol, cars as an idol, superheroes as an idol. These are all things that they put ahead. They think about more often than Christ Jesus, thus making it an idol. So yes, you can sit there and deny it all you want. You can even reject it in your own mind, the notion of it being so. But when you run cover, excuse, and defend somebody who is clearly, some would say, oh, he's just a sinful man, who is clearly evil, you have made him an idol. You are serving two masters. Something to think about. Something to think about. Let's keep it going. Trump's sons to take stake in Kazakh miner that won $1.6 billion in U.S. backing. We have another case of the Trump brothers investing in companies that are being leveraged by the U.S. presidency so they can make more money. Donald Trump, Donald Jr. and Eric have sought to capitalize on sectors supported by their father's presidential administration. Add another one to the list. This is a shell company backed by Trump Jr. and Eric Trump has agreed to merge with Critical Minerals Group that last year secured a $1.6 billion contract in U.S. government support to mine tungsten in Kazakhstan. The brothers bought into a construction group, Skyline Builders, in August, taking stakes through a special purpose vehicle run by a subsidiary of Dominary Securities. Skyline Builders is a shell company. This is how a lot of these groups get around taxes. This is how they get a lot around reporting income. This is a way that they're able to launder money, move money around, invest in other groups without being attached and everything. It's the best way to stay in secrecy, to avoid taxes, and to make as much money as possible. The CIA is the biggest proprietor of shell companies, so much so that they literally have a string. This was a long time ago. This was a couple years ago. I followed this string of shell companies that was headed by the CIA, and I got 50 deep. What I mean by was the CIA put up a shell company that invested in another shell company that invested in another and another and another. And I got to 50 shell companies, and it still kept going. I had to stop because I couldn't waste any more time following the train. And they were 50 shell companies deep, which means you can't follow any of that. And that one shell company that's 35 in is investing not only in the next shell company, but investing in other companies on top of that. And it's just a giant web. And so the Trump family is doing the exact same thing. Probably not 50 deep, but they're still doing it. It's the best way to stay in secret, to not know who's who, where the money is going, and so on and so forth. It says the brothers bought into the construction group Skyline Builders, which is a shell company, in August, taking stakes through a special purpose vehicle run by a subsidiary of Dominari Securities. Details of the informal agreement between Trump and Tukayev surfaced in press reports in October 21st. The two Trump sons added to their Skyline position on October 28th, contributing to a private placement that raised almost $24 million. On October 31st, filings show Skyline agreed to pay $20 million for a 20% stake in a company with significant critical mineral assets in Asia. That company was Kaz Resources, a subsidiary of New York-based mining investment group Cove Capital. Keep those two names in mind because I'm going to show you something in just a second. On November 6th, Cove Capital and the National Mining Company of Kazakhstan announced a deal to develop the largest known underdeveloped tungsten resource in the world. Cove, Kaz Capital, and Kaz Resources agreed to merge with Skyline on Thursday. The newly formed company plans to trade on NASDAQ as Kaz Resources. So you have Cove Capital connected to Kaz Resources, who just secured a major tungsten mining contract in Kazakhstan, and then received $1.6 billion from Trump administration. So what did the Trump brothers do? They took their shell company, invested in that group that just earned that contract, and so now they get part of the governmental contract, and they get residuals from the actual work being done in the country. All because their dad is president. Imagine that. There's no suggestion that Trump Jr. and Eric Trump knew Cove was on the cusp of securing a contract from their father's U.S. administration. Right. I'm Barbara Walters. That leads us to today. Group linked to Trump sons asked U.S. for extra $400 million for tungsten mine on top of the $1.6 billion that they've already got. Cove Kaz Capital has already secured a $1.6 billion in government support for the project in Kazakhstan. Imagine that. A company linked to Donald Trump's sons have been asked by the U.S. Defense Department, or asked the U.S. Defense Department for an additional $400 million to develop a tungsten mine in Kazakhstan, adding to a $1.6 billion in government support for the project. Cove Kaz Capital, which last month agreed to merge with the shell company backed by Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, which is Skyline, applied in March for $400 million in financing from the Office of Strategic Capital, a branch of the Defense Department that backs supply chain technologies needed for national security. The U.S. Export-Import Bank and Development Finance Corporation, two federally funded agencies, in November said that they had issued non-binding letters of interest for up to $1.6 billion. Cove Kaz controls 70% of the projects. The group's pitch to the OSC for the extra $400 million indicated that the funds would hasten progress of the mine's development. Tungsten's price has surged to about $3,100 per metric ton from around $350 per metric ton since the start of last year, according to Fast Markets data. You want to know why tungsten has increased so much since last year? Trump's tariffs against China. Because the major producer of tungsten and other critical minerals in the world is China. And the moment Trump placed his tariffs on them regarding those minerals that everybody needs to build their technology, it skyrocketed. And so what did the Trump brothers do? Cashed in on what their dad did. Raking in a ton of money. In late September, Kazakhstan's president Kassym-Jomart Tokayev told Donald Trump that he planned to award a major tungsten project to Cove Kaz. The two Trump sons added to their Skyline position in October. So literally, the month after the president of Kazakhstan told Trump that he was going to invest in that company, the brothers put in extra money in their shell company and then invested in that company so they can make as much money off of, alleged insider trading. It's amazing. Amazing. Doesn't stop there, though. Company leaked to Trump's sons to supply interceptor drones to the U.S. Air Force. This is just ridiculous. Remember, though, he doesn't care about Americans' financial situation. The U.S. company PowerUs, linked to Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., has been awarded a contract for an undisclosed number of interceptor drones for the U.S. Air Force. The deal marks PowerUs's first sale of this type of weaponry to the U.S. military. First sale, of course. Trump connected. The company declined to disclose the terms of the agreement or its scope. This agreement aligns with the broader U.S. strategy to counterattack drones using low-cost interceptors, which has been a major media thing coming out, saying that it's a giant blunder that the American military is having to use $4 million interceptors to take down $400 drones. So how do you do that? Well, you show that off in Iran, and then you have the sons of the president come in with their company saying, we can fix that problem with this company that we're invested in. This agreement aligns with the broader U.S. strategy to counterattack drones using low-cost interceptors instead of significantly more expensive missiles. In particular, the U.S. Army has already deployed 10,000 MIROPS interceptor drones in the Middle East. In early March, Brett Velikovich announced that the company is in talks to acquire Ukrainian drone manufacturers or license their technology for subsequent production under an American brand in the U.S. PowerUs has already acquired 3 small companies and sells both aerial and maritime drones. The company announced plans to produce over 10,000 drones per month. As Bloomberg notes, instead of going public on its own, PowerUs plans to merge with Eris Greenway Holdings, Inc., a golf club operator already listed on the NASDAQ. A military drone company is going to merge with a golf club operator. I still can't figure that one out. Eris Greenway's shareholders include the Trump Family's Investment Fund, American Ventures, Unusual Machines, where Donald Trump Jr. is a shareholder and member of its advisory board, and the investment bank Dominary Securities, which is linked to the Trump family. So they're going to merge a military drone company with a golf club operator because it's connected in 4 different ways to Trump and his sons. In addition to PowerUs, Eric Trump has become a strategic investor in Extend AI Robotics. We've talked about this before. This was about a year ago. Formed through a merger with Israeli drone manufacturer Extend and the publicly traded construction company JFB Construction Holdings. Extend received an order from the Pentagon for the rapid development and delivery of AI-powered FPV drones by November of 2025. We talked about this before. Extend is an Israeli drone company that tested their products during the Gaza situation, that the war that was going on over there, where they just leveled it. And Extend was testing it back then. Then Eric Trump got involved with the company at that point. Then they took those same drones that were used by Israel during the Gaza war, sent them into Florida to monitor the No Kings rallies in Florida and LA. And then after that, they received a massive contract with the Pentagon, of course, backed by Eric Trump, and started producing drones for the military at that point. Yeah, that should make you guys feel warm and fuzzy. They used military drone, surveillance drones during political rallies in our own country. You still don't think that they're going to be dropping bombs on Okay. Speaking of dropping bombs, Let's take a look at this. The UAE has been secretly carrying out attacks on Iran. So this is interesting because when we were going through the beginning of this war, there was some information that was kind of coming out regarding random jets that didn't belong to the US, Israel, or Iran that started popping up. And there was always like, who is this? Some thought it was like Pakistan. That wasn't right. Some thought it was some other stand country. I don't remember who it was. And that wasn't right either. Turns out it was the UAE. The UAE has been heavily involved with this and kind of makes sense maybe why they were bombarded more than any other Gulf state over there. Bombarded more than Israel itself. The United Arab Emirates has carried out military strikes on Iran. People familiar with the matter said, casting the Gulf monarchy as an active combatant in a war in which has been Iran's biggest target. The strikes, which the UAE hasn't publicly acknowledged, have included an attack on a refinery in Iran's Lavan Island in the Persian Gulf. The people familiar with the matter said that attack took place in early April, around the time President Trump was announcing a ceasefire in the war after a 5-week air campaign, and sparked a large fire and knocked much of its capacity offline for months. Iran said at the time that the refinery had been struck in an enemy attack and launched a barrage of missiles and drone strikes against the UAE and Kuwait in response. Before we go further on it, this should be more, I don't want to say evidence because it's not really evidence, but this should provide a little bit more weight and validity to the idea that many of the attacks on energy infrastructure in the Middle East that are either blamed on Iran or Israel, United States, however you look at it, could in fact be false flag attacks done by their own people in order to propel the agenda forward, the energy reset forward, to continue to knock things offline. We need to keep that in mind, because if UAE's over there bombing stuff, who's to say UAE didn't bomb their own things to turn them offline, blame it on Iran to perpetuate the war narrative, but in actuality, they're continuing to move forward with the energy narrative. This is something that we got to keep in mind. It sure seems like this is still an energy reset, and I just have this sinking feeling that round 2 is about to start here. I don't know when, but I don't think we're done. I think there's still going to be some stuff happening. I could be wrong. This is just a gut feeling. That's all it is. So I'm not predicting anything. But we need to make sure that we don't lose track of that a lot of these things that were hit could have been done by their own things. I mean, you guys remember, here's a throwback. You guys remember the Nord Stream pipeline? The explosion that blew it up? And everybody's sitting there. Was it Ukraine or was it Russia? Who was it? It had to have been one of them. It was the United States. United States official confirmed they blew it up to continue to perpetuate the Ukraine-Russian war. So again, we gotta make sure. Again, that's one of those conspiracies. But it's still something that, again, this is how the world operates. This is how Satan operates. Satan operates on conspiracy. That's what fuels him. From the very beginning, everything started with a conspiracy. And he's done nothing but stack conspiracy upon conspiracy. So why on earth would the Luciferians who are getting their marching orders from Satan not do the exact same thing? It's really not rocket science. It says that, and that would explain why the UAE and Kuwait got hit harder than anybody. It says the UAE's Ministry of Foreign Affairs declined to comment on the strikes, but pointed to previous statements in which it asserted its right to respond, including militarily, to hostile attacks. Iran focused much of its fire on the UAE, targeting it with more than 2,800 missiles and drones, far more than any other country, including Israel. That can't be right, because it was only 2 days into the war, and Trump said that 90% of their military was wiped out. So that can't be possible. Because Trump said it, and everything Trump says is true. Even if he drops a deuce on his desk and calls it gold. It's true. That just has to be. The attacks have hammered the UAE's air traffic, tourism, and property market and have led, this is interesting, have led to a wave of furloughs and layoffs. You know how when we talk about the financial reset being attached to an energy reset? Interesting that a lot of these Gulf countries that rely on major financial assets are all having to lay people off. Their businesses are hurting. Bankruptcies right around the corner. Their own economy is starting to crumble the same as our own economy is. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting on all that. So speculation about the UAE's involvement in the war has swirled since mid-March when a fighter jet that didn't appear to belong to Israel or the US was filmed over Iran. There was a lot of that going on. Researchers who track publicly available images and other information have pointed to photos purporting to show French Mirage fighters and Chinese Wing-Long drones, both used by the UAE, in action in Iran. But I thought only Iran had access to Chinese military equipment. Why is the UAE using it? I thought it was only China and Iran because they're the bad guys. UAE is one of the good guys because they're friends with Trump and the United States. Why are they using Chinese stuff? Sorry, I just can't help it because it's just the narrative is so stupid at this point. I don't know how anybody can believe it. I'm just being honest. Last but not least, when it comes to military stuff, Trump's proposed Golden Dome estimated to cost $1.2 trillion, far more than he initially said. I'm not going to say anything. President Donald Trump's plan to put weapons in space, pitched as a Golden Dome for America missile defense program, is estimated to cost $1.2 trillion over a 20-year period. $1.2 trillion from the guy who says he's going to fix the deficit, fix the debt. Yet he keeps throwing money crazy. According to a new analysis from the Congressional Budget Office, a far heftier sum than the initial $175 billion price tag he gave last year. So we reported on this when it was first announced. And we thought that was absurd. You guys remember when this thing was first announced, we were talking about it and said, yeah, he wants $175 billion for this Golden Dome defense system. I thought that was absurd. Well, it's now ballooned to $1.2 trillion. So he wants a $1.5 trillion. So we're at $1 trillion defense spending so far. He wants $1.5 trillion for next year's defense spending. And he wants $1.2 trillion for his Golden Dome project. I mean, when you can just print money, right? Why not? The futuristic system was ordered by Trump in an executive order during his first week in office. He said that he expected the system to be fully operational before the end of my term, which wraps up in January 2023, which I don't know if anybody caught it, but he just talked about how he's going to do a third term again. He mentioned this was a week or 2 weeks ago. It was very recently, but he also said, yeah, I'm going to run third term. Again, how many times has he done that? He's just joking, though. Don't worry. The CBO estimates are in part based on a lack of details from the Defense Department about how many systems will be deployed, making it impossible to estimate the long-term cost of the Golden Dome system, the report says. I'm surprised he didn't call it the Trump Dome. I mean, he puts his name on everything else. Why not just call it the Trump Dome? But yeah, continuing to move forward. I still... Every time I see stuff like this, I still sit there and go, I know it doesn't work this way, but just roll with me. That God's judgment scorecard just keeps, that angel that puts the tallies on that thing has not stopped And he just keeps going. I mean, he's sitting there like a hamster on a wheel, just making tallies on that thing because of what we're doing with this country. And speaking of not caring, we got this as well. Trump says he aims to suspend federal gas tax as fuel prices hit 4-year high. I think it's a great idea, Trump said on Monday. Now, question. It wasn't but a week ago that Trump publicly stated from his little presidential podium that the gas prices were lower than they've ever been before. Literally a week ago, he said gas prices are lower than they've ever been before. If that's the case, why is he floating the idea of suspending a federal gas tax? Which, by the way, still will not lower the gas prices below $4 a gallon average price, and will contribute $250 billion a month to the U.S. debt. It really won't help because gas prices, actually, they managed to drop a little bit over here where I'm at, but they're going to continue to go up. I'm failing to see how this is beneficial. Somebody did the math. I don't remember what it was, but they said if you put 15 gallons in your regular car, this will save you roughly $3 and something cents at fill up. But in actuality, all it's going to do is add to the de-dollarization, which in turn will actually drive economic deficit up. And the debt will continue to go up as well. So this actually will cause more problems for you for a very small, momentary relief at the gas pump. Proton Girl, yeah. Wait, Zach is doing math. I know. You usually can't trust my math, but sometimes I can get it right. If I think really hard, sometimes I can get it. As President Donald Trump said, he is open to suspending the federal gasoline tax on and it's interesting. I know. Just give me one second. It's interesting because do you guys remember? Maybe not. I didn't. I had to refresh my memory. Go back to the Biden administration. He proposed suspending the gas tax, the federal gas tax, when the gas prices were high during his tenure. And guess who came out and absolutely crushed the idea? The Republicans. Guess who are the ones that are leading it now? The Republicans. That's called political theater. That's called political theater because they don't actually have anything that they stand for or believe in. They are simply there to be cheerleaders to push you for political agenda. So the Republicans back then rejected the idea. And so all the Republicans back then, all the right-wingers said, no, stupid idea. That's Biden. He's trying to escape from his own problems. Well, the very same people that did that back then are now the ones rah-rah cheering it on this time. Because they don't actually believe in anything. They don't stand for anything. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. It's politics. They just go with whatever they're being manipulated, psyoped to go along with. So if it's a Democrat, it's a bad idea. If it's a Republican, it's a good idea. Working perfectly. President Trump said he is open to suspending the federal gasoline tax as drivers face the highest fuel prices in 4 years. You guys can go look it up too. I'm not kidding. I looked it up earlier today. Driven by global oil disruptions tied to the war on Iran and instability around key shipping routes. Yep, we're going to take off the gas tax for a period of time, and when gas goes down, we'll let it phase back in, Trump told CBS News. Energy Secretary Chris Wright had also said during his appearance on NBC's Meet the Press that the administration was weighing multiple approaches to lower fuel costs for consumers, businesses, as prices continue to rising national high. Yeah, this is the national average for regular gasoline reached $4.52 on Sunday. When I see stuff like this, my first thought, and I've gotten to the point where this is how I think now, and I thank the Lord for it, because I know it was His doing. When I see stuff like that, and it's just coming in daily, almost by the hour now, these reports about all this stuff. Gas prices, food prices, fertilizer problem, this and that, and all this stuff, hantavirus stuff, all this stuff. My first thought is, how many indicators does God need to give His church for them to finally release their grip from the dirt of this earth? See, when I look at this stuff, I don't see it as doom. I don't see it as panic. I don't see it as hardship. I don't see it as, any of that stuff. When I see that stuff, I view it as just another indicator for those who don't have scales on their eyes to continue to release from this earth, so God doesn't have to yank us off this planet kicking and screaming when He sends His Son to get us. But we are actively jumping into the sky to get a head start up into the clouds. Again, I look at all this stuff going around here, and there's Christians that this is something that still boggles my mind. I mean, I get it from a human standpoint, but at the same time, I still don't get it. Is there's so many people who profess to be believers that when you ask them, "Are you ready to go? You ready to get out of here? If death was at your door tomorrow, if the rapture was to happen in 5 minutes, you ready? You ready to go? You done? Like, let's go." I don't necessarily know all the numbers, but I'm comfortable saying probably most who profess to be believers would say, no, I still got stuff I want to do. There's things that I want to do here. I have these plans. I got this and I got that. It doesn't make sense to me. Like my spiritual brain cannot logically compute that answer. Because I'm at this point where I could drop dead right now, this very second on this show, and I'm good. I'm good. And that's not morbid. That's not twisted. That's desiring to be in the presence of Jesus. I'll be honest. There's a lot of perks. I don't necessarily like that word, but I don't know any other way. But there's a lot of perks that come along with it that I'm excited for too, including a new body. I desperately desire a new body. No pain, no suffering. There's perks. But I get to be with Jesus. I get to be with Jesus. Now, I can't necessarily speak in regards to the women and the wives and everything like that, but I can speak to the men on this part. Because I know a lot of them answer, I'm not ready to go. I have a family I have to take care of. I have a family I have to look after. I get that. I do get that. But at the same time, and I'm not married, and I'm not a dad, so I can't speak in that way, but just from what I've had passed down to me from very godly men who do have families and so on and so forth, you might want to take a little time and spiritually prep your family for if that time does come that you're not there. Not only does that help them, but that also loosens your grip a little bit on this earth as well. Something to take to the Lord. Something to think about. But yeah, that's an answer that I don't necessarily understand. Going to a believer and saying, if you were to just right now fall over, you ready? Most would say no. Are you that person? Are you that believer that's still gripping onto this earth? That still thinks that your plans and your desires and things that you want to do before you exit this earth are somehow in any way, shape, or form even a speck better than what would be coming? Those things can't even hold a candle for being in the presence of the Lord. No, I'm good. I'm good. For those who can't answer that question for another reason being that you don't have Jesus, is that something that you've thought about? If you were to drop dead this very second, are you ready to go? Do you know where you're going? Have you thought about what's after this? Or are you just winging it? It's amazing. There's so many people that reject Jesus, but dump money into a life insurance policy. Have you thought about afterlife insurance policy? You don't wing your insurance policy here. Why are you going to wing your afterlife insurance policy? That one doesn't make any sense to me either. If you're one of those people where you don't have your faith in Jesus Christ and you can't answer that question of, yep, I'm ready to go, it might be time for you to invest in an afterlife insurance policy. And there's only one offering that pays out every time. That's Jesus Christ. And his gospel is as simple as ABC. A is you admit that you're a sinner. The act of repentance. Metanoia. Changing your mind, turning from self to Christ. It's through repentance that allows us to have a true belief in Jesus Christ. It's one of those things, again, if you want to use the analogy, the life insurance policy is Christ Jesus. The ink that you sign that contract with is his spilled blood. But it's your repentance that's the pen that you use to sign it. Admitting that you fall short and that you need Christ Jesus as a Savior is the first step to actually truly believing in Jesus Christ. B is we believe in Jesus Christ. We believe that Jesus Christ is the one and only begotten Son of God. That he came down 100% man, 100% God, the God-man, the one and only. And he lived the perfect, sinless life. The only one to do so, which means he was the only one qualified to carry the sins of the world, my sin, your sin, past, present, and future. He carried them all defying time and taking the burden of our sins to the cross, where he took my place upon that cross, and he was crucified, and he died. Now, if the story ends there, that insurance policy is void. It will not pay out. But Christ paid the cost, spilled his powerful blood, and defeated death and rose again on the third day, for all who believe in him shall not perish but live forever in his presence, in his perfect glory, in a new glorified body, in God's reality above time, where pain and suffering and stupidity is long gone. All because of what he did. And he paid it in full. And see, as we call upon the Lord, we are given an incredible supernatural gift of prayer, as we are indwelt with the Holy Spirit at salvation, that allows us to communicate with our Heavenly Father at any moment of any day, so much so that he desires. He doesn't just suggest, ask, tell. No, he desires to hear from us 24/7. That's why he tells us, do not cease praying. I want to hear you consistently, without end. Let me say, God, thank you. Thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who willingly sacrificed himself, willingly gave his life, so he can freely give me life. God, we are in crazy times right now. Absolute insanity. None of it surprises you. You saw it coming. You planned ahead. You told us ahead of time. But we ask, Lord, for your wisdom and your guidance as we navigate these times. Help us to not fall into the narrative traps. Help us to not make stupid decisions. Help us to remove the idols in front of us, whatever they may be, so we can continue to keep our eyes focused on you and do what you have commanded us to do. And God, for those who cannot answer the question of if you were to drop dead this moment, are you ready to go? For those who do believe, help them to let go of this earth even more, which we understand that means things will only get worse on this earth, but we want them to come to a place of desiring to leave and to be home. But for those who don't have Jesus Christ, that can't answer that question, help them to find Christ Jesus and place their life in his hands before it's too late. We know things are going to get worse. We ask, Lord, for your strength and your endurance and stamina to continue to run the race fully until we either drop dead or you send your Son to come and get us. And we ask, Lord Jesus, please come soon. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. See what we got with the questions. We have one question. All right. Do what we can do here. Patrick. Of course it's from Patrick. Let's see. Patrick, is it possible that they claim hantavirus, but they're actually releasing something deadly from a lab? It's possible. Not saying it's not. Just from my perspective, and I've shared this before, I still stand by the thing that I think the next thing that is released regarding biological stuff, I think is going to be tied with the rider on the horse that brings it. I don't necessarily think that they would pull that card now, but I could be wrong. I just don't see them doing it. yeah, I just don't see it. But again, that's why we're going to pay attention to this. I'm going to keep an eye on it as much as I roll my eyes every time I see anything about hantavirus. I'm telling you, it's mind-numbing. I'm going to keep an eye on it. And if I do start to see it go in that direction, I will certainly make sure that I let you guys know. That's about all I can give you on that one. So that's about it. All right, guys. That's it as far as questions, and that's it for tonight. Yeah. So usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about JoJo rolling her eyes. It's great. But it's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. So if you guys can do me a solid and like, share, subscribe, certainly appreciate it. And again, if you missed it, I posted just a very short presentation of the gospel as well. So if you're one of those people that wants to share that out and get the gospel out, that's also available as well. Yeah, so thank you. Also, if you want to follow along on Rumble and Telegram, you can. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be back up live streaming over on Rumble. Telegram post updates, announcements, and other little things that I can't necessarily put in video format, but I throw up on there anyway. So if you have those platforms, feel free to follow along. If not, no worries. Just make sure you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. It's your one-stop shop to stay up to date on everything happening around the world, right? Or not around the world. I got to stop saying that. Around the Wretched Watchmen world of things. Yikes. Just bookmark the page. Podcast, live streams, announcement page, free book to download, all there. You know the spiel. Feel free. Do that. Yeah. Last but not least, if you guys like to support this channel, what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and GiveSend. I'm losing my mind. But yeah, those links down below are available if you feel free or you feel led to donate and support this channel. Again, everything that we do is free. I don't sell anything, paywalls. I don't do any of that type of stuff. The only reason why we're able to do this is because of your guys' donations and your support and everything. So thank you guys for your support and keeping this rolling. I appreciate you guys. So, all right, that's it. That's it. So we got the rest of the week ahead of us. Get out there, share the gospel. If you're one of those people that can't answer the question of if you drop dead or you're ready to go home, then you might be praying and getting in the word and seeing about how you can change that. Because I'll tell you what, it's a whole lot more freeing to be able to answer that question and go, yep, this moment, if I drop dead, I am happy and I'm good to go. It's a wonderful feeling. So take a look at that. Other than that, you guys have a great week. And if the Lord does not come back by Saturday, same time, same place, I'll meet you guys right back here. Peace out. Maranatha.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.